So as you can see here, guys, we've got every single perk from World at War all the way into Vanguard. We do technically have the MW3 perks. Sorry, but I mean they are literally the exact same as the Cold War ones, minus the upgrades. So there's not really much point going over that. Alright, so starting things off with OG Juggernog. Obviously, I'm not going to waste anyone's... Oh, tier list is lagging. Off to a great start. Obviously, I'm not going to waste anyone's time here. This is an S tier perk. I shouldn't have to explain this to you guys. Like, Jug is just one of the best perks ever created. Obviously, what it does, for the benefit of people who don't know, is it makes it so that instead of going down after 2 or 3 hits, it goes down after 5 hits. And if you're playing World at War Verrucht, it's like 10 or 11 hits. Obviously, this is one of the best perks for keeping you alive in COD Zombies, which is very important since you are very fragile without it. This is usually the first perk everyone buys for good reason. Moving on to SpeedCola, this perk basically cuts your reload speed in half, and in Black Ops 1 onwards, you rebuild barriers faster. Whilst the secondary ability is obviously pretty bad, the reload ability is obviously great. However, I'm going to put it in A tier behind Juggernog. I think it's not quite on the same tier, because you can survive without SpeedCola, and obviously in Black Ops 3 and some maps, you have, you know, attachments which can also help with your reload speed, although obviously if you combined, you know, the fast mags attachment in BO3 with SpeedCola, reloading is just going to be like that. It's not going to be much of an issue. If we were talking World at War to BO2, it would be an S tier. However, factoring everything into the equation, it's not quite on the same level as Jug. Moving on to Quick Revive, obviously this perk revives you if you go down in solo. You can have 3 uses of it before it stops spawning in, and in co-op it cuts your revive time in half, or I believe it doubles it, something like that. Essentially, Quick Revive is a perk that I think gets too much praise, and one thing that you'll notice from me is I'm not that big a fan of perks where they're not helping you all the time. So like these 2 perks, for example, they're helping me constantly, whereas Quick Revive only has 1 ability, so if you're playing on solo, you don't get the multiplayer ability, and obviously in co-op you don't get the solo one. Honestly, I'm going to put Quick Revive in C tier. Now this may be a bit controversial, but honestly, Quick Revive, as long as you're good at the game, in solo at least, it literally does nothing. It's just kind of there, sitting off in the back as kind of like a safety net, but as long as you're good at the game, it's not going to help you too much. Double Tap 1.0 is a perk that needs no introduction. It just makes your guns fire 33% faster. Although this perk gets a lot of unnecessary hate because people act as though, oh, you know, your guns fire so much faster, you're going to waste your ammo. Yeah, no shit, Sherlock. You hold down the trigger, you're gonna waste your ammo. I'm pretty sure anyone could have told you that one. Weapons with fast RPMs, you won't notice much different, but it genuinely makes a couple of weapons really good, such as the HK, the Browning, the ray gun even, the MP40. So I think it is genuinely a C tier perk. It's not spectacular, but again, it's not bad either. I think this perk is very underrated. Moving on to the Black Ops 1 perks, we have PhD Flopper. So this perk makes you immune to explosive damage and fall damage, and makes it so that when you dolphin dive, you flop. Honestly, this perk for me is a complete flop, because let's be honest, it only affects a couple of weapons in the game, and it really doesn't do that much. Like, this perk is useless around 40 and onwards, and let's be honest, only one of the abilities is actually good. I would honestly put PhD Flopper in C tier as well. Like, it's better than those 2, but like, this perk is just, it's literally the most overrated thing of all time. Like, round 40 onwards, it's completely useless unless you're doing the Semtex strat on Shangri-La. This perk really won't help you all that much. It's not bad, but it could be better. Staminup is a really helpful perk. It makes it so you can sprint twice as long and you run slightly faster. Honestly, I would consider it... no, I'd probably put it in B tier, just because this perk is useless for camping strats, but for just getting around the map, training the zombies, or for boss fights, it's actually really good Staminup. You can live without it, but it's definitely better than average. DeadShot Dealer makes it so that your guns snap onto the head. You also are more accurate, and I believe it slightly increases your headshot damage, although I could be wrong. Honestly, if you're playing with keyboard and mouse, this perk is an F tier, as it literally makes no difference to you whatsoever. However, in general gameplay, I would honestly put it in E tier. This perk doesn't help you very much. It's very cheap, but at the same time, it doesn't really do anything, and there is no reason to choose it over the other perks in Black Ops 3 at least. Whenever I get a perkaholic, I never get excited that this is one of the perks that I've got from that. And MuleKick is very simple, it just gives you a third gun. It allows you to carry 3 guns. I honestly think that this perk is very good. The only thing is that it depends on which game you play it in. I don't know why the tier list is lagging, but for example, in Black Ops 1, it's very easy to lose it, and the guns aren't even that strong in BO1, whereas in BO2 and 3, where the guns are way stronger, and also there are ways to mitigate losing it. For example, Tombstone permaperk in BO2, Gobblegums in BO3. Obviously, MuleKick becomes a lot better. So just for that alone, I am going to put it at the top of C tier because it has a lot of potential. It just depends on what game you're playing. Double Tap 2.0 is basically the exact same as regular Double Tap, except it also makes you fire 2 bullets for every 1 you fire. In other words, it makes your guns do double the damage and have 33% greater RPM. Obviously, this is an A tier perk, like it just makes every bullet weapon better, more than twice as good, and it also affects some wonder weapons, such as the ray gun and the ray gun Mark II. Obviously, yes, just like PhD, round 40 onwards, this perk doesn't really do very much, as obviously bullet weapons will just drop off, and then you have to use wonder weapons, which don't really benefit from double tap, but nonetheless, it is a fantastic perk. Tombstone basically makes it so that when you fully bleed out, you have the option of coming back the next round, picking up your perks and your weapons as if nothing ever happened. For me, this is an F tier perk, as when you're using it on transit, you have to intentionally sabotage your team in order to get it, because you can't buy this perk in solo, so you have to deliberately fuck your team over just to do this. Not to mention, in town survival, yes, whilst you can get the other perks with Tombstone, the only reason why you do that is to get the other perks, you know? You're doing that strat because the other perks are amazing, not because Tombstone is good, you know? I think this perk is genuinely awful, and one of the worst perks ever created. Who's Who is basically Tombstone but better, so when you go down, you enter a limbo state where you can buy weapons, perks, etc. And if you can survive the 45 seconds, or if you can revive your person, you essentially get right back up with your perks and weapons as if nothing ever happened. For me, I think Who's Who is going into the D tier, because obviously, once again, just like Quick Revive, this perk does nothing as long as you're good at the game. However, the fact that on Die Rise, which has such a shit layout, like say for example, you go down on the roof and your teammates are down in the liquefier room, they have 0 chance of getting you. So Who's Who does offer you a chance at life, which is why I think it's better than those two. Obviously, it's not quite as good as Quick Revive because the Tombstone permaperk is on Die Rise, and it's much more reliable to just use Quick Revive to get your stuff back, but nevertheless, Who's Who is actually not that bad. Electric Cherry makes it so that when you reload with a weapon, any weapon I might add, it emits an electrical shockwave that stuns nearby zombies, and it also kills them on the early rounds. For me, this perk is a B tier, as it's constantly helping you throughout the rounds. It doesn't matter whether you're on round 1 or 100, you will still get some use out of this perk, but at the same time, it largely depends on the weapons that you're using. If you're using something like the Blundergat, you are getting use out of this thing constantly, but if you use something like the LSAT or an LMG, you really won't get as much use out of this perk, so it's still really good and it's above average, but it depends on what weapon you're using. Vulture Aid allows you to see weapons and perks through walls, allows you to get ammo and additional points from zombies, and it emits a green mist that can hide you from the zombies. Now, if custom zombies taught me anything, it's that this is truly an S perk, and one of the best perks, if not the best perk ever created. With wonder weapons, it's literally infinite ammo, and the zombies can't even attack you when you have this perk. However, on Buried specifically, this is not the case, as Buried has no infinite damage wonder weapons. That being said, I would still put it in B tier. I don't think... I'd probably put it above Electric Cherry, or maybe behind it. Kind of like just in the B tier. Maybe behind it, actually, because Cherry's on more maps. If Vulture Aid was on more maps, and maps with infinite damage wonder weapons, obviously it would be literally the best perk ever made. But in its current state on Buried, it's still good, but just didn't hit its potential. And finally, for the World at War to Black Ops 3 perks, we have Widow's Wine. Now, whenever you take damage with Widow's Wine, it emits a spiderweb shockwave that traps and ensnares all nearby zombies, basically protecting you from further damage. This is literally Electric Cherry on steroids, and I would consider it to be one of the few perks that can even rival Juggernog, let alone surpass it. Obviously, in certain situations, Jug is better, and in other situations, Widow's Wine's better. At the moment, I think Widow's Wine is just consistently better. It's just on another tier, as it protects you from the zombies, and you have 4 uses of it, and it's really not that hard to recharge. Obviously, with some wonder weapons, you can get Widow's Wine back like that. And at the end of the day, you can just get a max ammo and instantly recharge this perk. Alright guys, so moving on to the Black Ops 4 perks. First of all, I'm going to get the ones out of the way that were basically reintroduced into the game. So first of all, we have Quick Revive. Now this perk no longer revives you in solo, however it gives you a massive boost to your health regeneration. You can revive players faster. You also start moving faster when you begin healing, and when you revive a teammate, you are fully healed. Honestly, this perk for me is an A tier. It is literally Black Ops 4's equivalent of Jug. You know, not only does it keep you alive, but it also gives you the speed boost when you start healing, basically keeping you ahead of the zombies for that much longer. And it pairs very nicely with the perk we're going to talk about now, which is Staminup. Staminup is exactly the same as the OG Staminup. However, instead of sprinting for twice as long, you sprint forever. Honestly, this perk is fantastic, as whilst you technically always sprint forever in Black Ops 4, as you get tired, you slow down, which allows the zombies to eventually overtake you, which can obviously result in your death in the higher rounds. So having Stamina up there, making you faster at top speed forever, these two perks combined, you are a force to be reckoned with. Moving on to DeadShot Dealer, this perk is exactly the same as DeadShot Daiquiri, however, you gain a stackable boost to your damage whenever you get consecutive headshots back to back. Honestly, this perk for me is again just a D tier perk. There really is no incentive to go for headshots when the infinite damage Helion Salvo exists. You know, you will just be killing zombies on any round with that thing. And again, it's a rocket launcher, so you'll be killing large groups of enemies with one shot, so going for headshots just doesn't make sense. Now we have Electric Burst. Now, Electric Burst obviously is very similar to Electric Cherry, however, the interesting modifier with this weapon, consecutive attacks will build a charge, so then when you next melee, your charge will be released, stunning the zombies. For me, this is easily better than the original Electric Cherry, and it pairs very nicely with a perk that I may as well just include right now, Ethereal Razor. Obviously, you guys know what I'm referring to, the strategy where you use the ballistic knife to get to round 100 on Alpha Omega. Because what Ethereal Razor does is it makes it so that your knife is always an instant kill, and that melee attacks heal you. For me, these two perks are side by side. I would consider Electric Burst a bit... Actually, no, I think I'd consider Ethereal Razor to be the better one of the two, but they are necessary for a very specific strat, so I think they deserve to go hand in hand in B tier. Moving back onto the OG perks that were brought back, we have ZombShell. Now, ZombShell takes one specific ability from Vulture Aid and turns it into an entire perk, where basically when you kill a zombie, there is a chance that a cloud of gas is released. Any zombie that stands in that field will take damage, and if you stand in it, you are protected from all attacks. I think this perk is just a C tier. Like, it's a really useful ability, but I just rarely ever use it. And again, Vulture Aid already has this ability and two others, so it can't really go on the same tier in my opinion. Black Ops 4's Mule Kick is quite simple. It's exactly the same as OG Mule Kick, however, you swap weapons faster, and you also get your weapon back. Whenever you lose the perk, you buy the perk back, you get your third gun back, and you also get a visual indication letting you know which is your third weapon. For me, this is also just a B tier perk. Like, it's better than the original Mule Kick in every way, but then again, it is BO4. You already have two insane weapons, plus the specialist weapon. Like, you don't really need Mule Kick in BO4. Nevertheless, a direct upgrade over the original. Speaking of upgrades over the original, PhD Slider. Now, this has all of the same abilities as Flopper, however, instead of dolphin diving causing an explosion, whenever you slide, it causes an explosion. For me, this is easily an A tier perk. The reason being is because the Helion Salvo exists. Now, I'm going to put it above Double Tap 2.0, purely... Actually, no, I'm going to put it behind, just because this perk with the Helion Salvo is necessary for Easter egg bosses, high round strats, the works. Like, this perk truly is really useful. Yes, actually, I think it might go at the bottom, just because it's only really useful for one specific weapon, but when you have it with the Salvo, you're basically God. Finally, the last perk that was reintroduced, we have Winter's Wail. Winter's Wail is very similar to Widow's Wine. However, it requires you to take 2 hits in order for it to activate. You have 4 uses of it, just like Widow's Wine. However, you also have a temporary ice field orbit the player, which slows down any zombies near you. This I don't think is as good as Jug, purely because Jug was on more maps, but also the thing with Winter's Wail is it recharges so much slower than Widow's Wine. Now, yes, it does more damage, but let's be honest, if you're using Widow's Wine to kill the zombies, you're using that perk wrong. The entire point of the perk is that it saves your life, and Widow's just recharges way faster than Winter's Wail does. Now, yes, you can use a perk that we're going to go over soon in order to speed up that cooldown, but regardless, like, I just think it's, whilst it is an S tier perk for saving your life, and it's one of the best perks in the game, I don't think it's as good as Widow's Wine. Moving on to the original perks in BO4, we have Death Perception. Now, this perk functions very similar to Spider-Man's Spider Sense, where you gain a small heads up when you're about to take damage, you can see zombies through walls, and you also deal bonus critical damage to bosses. For me, this perk is simply, like, I don't think it's as bad as, I don't think it's an F tier, but actually, maybe it is. Yeah, I honestly would consider this to be an F tier perk, purely because all 3 abilities are shit, because getting notified before you're about to take damage, again, just get a shield, you'll be protected no matter what. Seeing zombies through walls, chances are if you can see a zombie through a wall, that zombie is in no danger to you. And dealing bonus damage to bosses, again, that's simply what the Helion Salvo is for. And again, you may as well just go with DeadShot Dealer, like, if you're desperate to do more damage to enemies. There's really no point to this perk, and it is one of the worst in the game. Timeslip is a really helpful perk. It just speeds up everything in your game. It makes the box faster, Pack-a-Punch faster, elixirs recharge faster, your specialist weapon recharge faster, traps recharge faster. Literally everything in the game recharges faster with this perk. Honestly, I would consider it the top of B tier. I think this perk is really useful for literally every scenario. It's good for speedrunning, it's good for camping, good for high rounds, good for Easter eggs, whatever. However, obviously, it doesn't do one thing really well. It just does a lot of little things quite well, which is why I would consider it B tier and not A tier. This used to be my favorite perk in the game, and it still honestly is one of my faves, but if I'm being objective, I don't think it can go any higher. Bandolier Bandit is very simple. It just gives all of your weapons more ammo, and it reloads your weapons whenever you put them in your bag. For me, the modifier is one of the worst in the game, but having more ammo for all of your weapons, honestly, this is really good. Now, it doesn't give you a shit ton of ammo by any means, but honestly, like, a little, like, even if it's just 2 more magazines, it's still really useful, especially since that basically means you can kill like 12 additional hordes with the Helion Salvo, so I would consider it a really good perk in all honesty. Stonecold Stronghold is the camper's wet dream, where basically whenever you stay still for a few seconds, you get a protective circle around you, and if you stand in that circle, not only do you deal progressively more damage to the zombies, but you also gain armor which will protect you from the zombies and make them dealing less damage. For me, obviously this perk is completely useless for anything other than camping strats. However, it is still really useful, but let's be honest, whenever you're camping, you're probably going to want like Winter's Wail or Quick Revive there to help and protect you and keep you safe. So for me, this perk, I don't honestly know. I think I would still put it in C tier, because giving you armor is obviously quite good, but it's just like, you need other perks to help it out, and again, it's only really useful for one specific strat. Victoria's Tortoise makes it so that you are completely invincible when you hold your shield out in your hand, and whenever your riot shield gets destroyed, it explodes, knocking all zombies back, and I think it also makes it so that you can stun boss zombies when you shield bash them. For me, this is easily one of the best perks in the game, since when you're doing the camping strat on classified with the Riot Shield, you know, you're already going to be taking less damage with Stronghold, but again, like, you're completely invincible from all sides because of this perk. Honestly, it could easily deserve S tier, but again, like, you need the shield in order for it to do anything. It's kind of useless if you don't, so for me, I think it's easily an A tier perk. Blaze Phase. What this perk does is whenever you crouch, you build up a charge, and then when you stand up, it launches you forward at blinding speed. Technically, with the modifier, you can launch yourself forever, but this for me is also an F tier perk, and the reason why is because, actually, I think this is one of the worst perks in all of Zombies. The reason why is because it's Black Ops 4. Like, literally every single map, even one of the more open ones like 9, has shit for you to run into, and it's just not very practical. Like, why would you run this when you could run Staminup, which makes you run really, really fast forever? Like, there's just no reason to run this perk. Like, it has a cool ability, but again, if you want to do sliding, just go with PhD Slider. Bloodwolf Bite, whenever you kill a couple of zombies in rapid succession, it spawns in Luna, the Bloodwolf companion, which aids you in killing the zombies, and it also works similarly to Vulture Aid's ability, which spawns in additional ammo and points from the zombies. For me, I would never run this perk other than for certain high round strats. Like, I know on Ancient Evil it's really, really good, but again, like, it's just taking one ability from Vulture Aid, so I would consider it like C tier. Like, again, it literally has one ability from Vulture Aid, and whilst it might do it well, Vulture Aid just has these two abilities, built into its kit already, so. Dying Wish. Possibly the most overrated perk of all time. So what this perk does is when you're about to go down and you lose all your health, you instead enter a invincible state for 8 seconds. You become completely invincible and gain a massive damage boost to zombies, and when you're taken out of the invincible state, go right back to full health as if nothing happened. However, successive uses of it will increase its cooldown. For me, this perk is, again, like I said, it's one of the most overrated perks of all time. That being said, I would still consider it a B tier, because obviously your self-revives are limited, so, you know, going down additional times is quite helpful. But again, this perk, as long as you're good at the game, literally does nothing. Like, it kind of like Quick Revive. So you'd be better off with like Winter's Wail or Quick Revive in BO4, which would literally help keep you alive anyways, rather than a perk that does fuck all until you actually go down. Finally, we have Secret Source. Now, this perk is quite explanatory. It gives you a random perk, like literally. So it's useful if you want to do like a challenge run, possibly. This perk is literally one of the worst perks of all time for me as well. Number one, if I had any chance of getting DeadShot, Blaze Phase, or Death Perception would instantly turn me off, because you got to keep in mind it's BO4, so when you pick 4 perks, you are locked in with those choices for the rest of the game. So it's not like traditional zombies where you go down and you're like, oh, okay, well, instead of double tap, I'll go with SpeedCola. It's not like that, so you're intentionally fucking yourself over if you run this perk and you get unlucky. And number 2, later on in Black Ops 4's life cycle, they brought Perkaholic back in the form of an elixir, which gives you 6 random perks in addition to the 4 in your loadout. So, like, just use Perkaholic instead of this. Now we have Cold War's perks, starting with Quick Revive. Honestly, take exactly everything that I said for Black Ops 4's Quick Revive, but make it so that when you revive teammates, both of you move extremely fast for a few seconds. You also can kill a zombie when downed, and it will instantly revive you, and it increases your movement speed when you're down. For me, this is easily the best version of Quick Revive we've ever seen, and I would honestly consider it... Would I consider it? No, I think it would be an S tier perk. It's so helpful for pretty much every situation, and it is easily one of the best perks we've ever seen. Jug, I mean, take exactly everything that I said for OG Jug. It gives you a massive boost to your health. However, it also increases your armor and makes it so that you get more armor from drops. If your armor fully breaks, when you're about to go down, your armor will fully break instead of you going down, giving you an additional chance at life. For me, this is easily better than the OG Jug. It literally does exactly the same, increasing your health to 250, but obviously it increases your armor, which armor is everything in Cold War. Obviously, OG Jug is phenomenal, like, I'm not taking that away from it, but being objective, this is literally just a direct upgrade over Jug. Cold War Staminup, again, literally sprint at top speed forever, just like, you know, BO4 Staminup. However, it also makes you immune to fall damage and makes it so that you can use your weapons while sprinting, or at the very least, I think that's what Staminup does. It could be SpeedCola I'm thinking of. Regardless, this is also an S tier perk. Like, you have to use it in order to believe it. Like, you're literally the fucking Flash whenever you use this perk in Cold War. Like, it is ridiculous how much of a benefit it gives you. Obviously, it increases your reload speed by 30% this time instead of 50, but what you get instead is similar to Timeslip. It makes most things in your game faster, like the mystery box, and it also allows you to do a couple of other things like rebuilding barriers and making it so that your field upgrade charges faster. For me, this is also an A tier perk. I wouldn't consider it as good as SpeedCola, but again, like, you can use attachments to help it out. This one, not quite as good, but it has a few additional abilities to help it out. DeadShot Dealer. Now, this perk does exactly what OG DeadShot does, but it gives you a massive damage boost. Not only a stackable damage boost to enemies that you're consistently firing at, but it makes it so that you deal double damage to headshots whenever it is the first shot you land, and it increases armor damage as well. For me, this perk is literally just a B tier. It is phenomenal, and you do notice a massive damage difference when you use it, but again, like, there are just better alternatives. Elemental Pop basically applies, so when you use one elemental damage, it applies all 5 of them onto all of your weapons, including wonder weapons. It increases the amount of elemental weakness enemies have by 50%, and it also gives you Electric Cherry's ability. Now, for that reason alone, I don't think it can go any lower than Electric Cherry, but this perk, honestly, like, I think it's really good, but again, it's just kind of, would I prefer it over DeadShot? I don't know, maybe I would actually, just because it does quite a few things, and obviously, with an enemy like the Megaton, where it's beefy as fuck, taking access of its elemental weakness to Deadwire would obviously give you a massive damage boost, significantly more than anything DeadShot would. But again, these perks are just kind of side by side. Cold War's Depth Perception. Holy shit, what a glow up. So this perk obviously allows you to see through walls like the original, but it also makes your minimap activate faster, gives you bonus critical damage, and it also makes it so that you get bonus salvage as well as a few other things. Now, for me, this perk is easily an A tier. Like, this, it's just more salvage. Like, on Outbreak or anything like that, it's just phenomenal. I don't know where I'd put it necessarily. I think it would probably go, like, probably the bottom of A tier. Like, I don't think it's as useful as those others, but it just gives you a load of unique abilities, and obviously, more salvage is everything in Cold War. Cold War's MuleKick. Now, again, this is literally Black Ops 4's MuleKick. I know I'm repeating myself, but honestly, I'm sure you guys would prefer me to do that than just list all the abilities again. However, it allows you to get additional ammo from zombies, gives you a chance of reusing equipment, and makes it so you can purchase more equipment from stores. Now, this may be the biggest hot take of the entire video, but this for me is the best perk in all of COD Zombies, and it's not even close. This perk is exactly what Vulture Aid would be if it was on custom maps. Like, it's like, tell me, when was the last time you ran out of ammo when using tier 5 MuleKick? The answer is never, because you just get so much ammo and equipment when using this thing. Not to mention, when you go down, there is a chance of reusing self-revives, which makes it instantly more useful than any version of Quick Revive we've ever seen, and even debatably better than Jug for keeping you alive. Not to mention, you can buy more equipment at you know, the equipment station, which means twice the Casimirs for keeping you in the fight. Honestly, this is just one of the best perks we've ever seen, and again, it gives you a third gun, and you keep that third gun when you rebuy the perk. Now for the final perk, we have PhD Slider. Now, Slider in this game was basically exactly the same as its BO4 counterpart, but it makes it so that you slide extremely fast. Now, for me, I don't think explosives were... I think explosives were better in Cold War, actually, because obviously you have frag grenades and shit that do infinite damage. You have the War Machine, which solos. So I think I would put it just neck and neck with the PhD Flopper from BO4. I would consider it better because, again, you just slide so fucking fast, and it's very satisfying to use, especially on Mauer and Forsaken. For those of you who don't know how Vanguard Perks work, essentially, we are taking the maxed out versions, as I said. Basically, you have to buy them 5 times, and it gives you double of the effect. So, for example, for Fiendish Fortitude, which is basically Jug in this game, at maxed out, it gives you double the health. Now, again, like, it's a really useful perk, but I would not consider... Like, I would probably consider it to be the worst of the S-tier perks. Reason being is because, obviously, you've got to spend a shit ton of points on it in order to get it. And again, like, even when maxed out, I don't think it's as good as the original Jug. For Ethereal Haste... Now, this obviously is like Staminup, and it makes it so that you sprint. I don't know how it works. Like, I don't know if it makes you sprint twice as fast or for twice as long when you fully upgrade it. But even so, like, again, like, I think it's better than the OG Staminup, maybe. Actually, no, I think I'm going to put it side by side with the original, because obviously it might be better, but you've got to spend so much more money on it to get it to its max potential. Demonic Frenzy. Now, this is the Vanguard equivalent of SpeedCola. Basically, this makes it so that you reload 100% faster instead of 50% faster. Now, in my opinion, again, like, we're just putting all the SpeedColas side by side. Obviously, it has potential to be the best of the SpeedColas, but again, you've got to spend, like, over 10 grand on this perk, and it's Vanguard's point system, keep in mind. So it's kind of like Outbreak's point system where you get fuck all for every kill. Venomous Vigor. Now this is basically this is Vanguard's equivalent of, you know, Quick Revive. It makes it so that your health regenerates faster, to the point where it can be twice as fast. For me, this, again, I don't think it's necessarily as good as the original, and I think that those perks offer more of a benefit, so I would consider it an A tier still, but the worst of the A tiers. Finally, we have Diabolical Damage. Fucking hell, I hate that perk, which makes it so that you do bonus critical damage. Now, again, twice the critical damage is obviously nothing to scoff at, and I think it has the potential to be really good, but again, I would just consider every other perk in B tier to be, like, significantly better. In fact, I think, honestly, some of the C tier perks would rival it. I'm starting to... Okay, I think it would go, like, near the bottom of C tier, because obviously twice the critical damage is huge, but let's be honest, by the time that you've actually maxed it out, chances are your weapons won't be very effective anyways. Anyways, guys, that is my completed tier list. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Obviously, like, the order of these perks may change in the tiers, but I hope that you can agree with the tiers themselves. Obviously, some perks will be controversial, but again, I hope that you can at least see my point of view. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. That'd be great, and I'll see you all in the next one.